Hello, I have a number of these 5-inch LCD TVs, monitors that I use around my studio. Obviously they're not much good for sort of qualitative analysis of an image, but they tell you what's on the tape if it's playing okay, so they're quite useful. This one's been playing up a little bit lately. It was taking some time to switch on and now it's died altogether. What would the sensible person do? Throw it away. What am I going to do? Let's see if we can fix it, shall we? So it's a little standard definition TV. It's got a tuner, analog tuner, which obviously no use anymore, but it has AV inputs. So we have a cable here. It's only mono, which plugs into there, and 12-volt DC input jack, and it has a power supply that comes with it, this one. And we can connect the input to this time-based corrector just so we can see whether we get any kind of image. I can't quite remember which connector is which, but I'm going to assume that yellow is video. Again. So plugging in the power supply, power it up, making some noises. I don't have the remote control to hand. I think I have one somewhere, but you should be able to control everything with menus and won't even switch off. Okay. A good place to start, I think, would be the power supply. So that should be 12-volt center positive. Power it up. The power supply is on our oscillation transformer. About 17 volts. So I think that's fine. I mean, that's a little bit generous, but under load it presumably falls. And these are designed to work on car batteries as well, which are going to be a good deal more than 12 volts. So I know that does seem high though. It's probably just not regulated. 12 volt, 800 milliamp it says. What do you think? I'm thinking that's not regulated. I think it's just a transformer, rectifier, capacitors, and that's your lot. So I don't believe that powering it off a better power supply is going to help, but we could try. The problem being this small barrel connector. I don't think I'm going to have anything quite like that. I'll have a quick look. Right, no, I don't. It's an oddball size. I've got ones that are smaller, but I've got ones that are bigger, but I don't have that size. What I might do is, once I've taken the back off, see if I can power it off the mains adapter by connecting internally to that. But we're probably looking at bad capacitors in here, aren't we? So let's take a look inside. It's been many, many years since I took one of these apart. It says a power supply can also be 10 AA batteries. Yeah, I think there was some sort of battery pack came in the box. Okay, well it doesn't put up a fight coming apart. That's good. Power. Oh yeah, the menu button's just fallen out. Oh dear. Okay, I'm fairly sure that this area will be ground and this point here will be plus 12 volts or about 17 as we're seeing, but I'll just confirm that. So power it up, switch it on, which is going to be one of these buttons. Right, and let's look at what voltage we actually see there now under load. 13 volts, okay. Doesn't seem out of the way. So I don't think we're talking about power supply problem here, are we? And the voltage is dying away, so there's obviously good capacitors in there. So we have an issue here that is not related to the power supply. I was expecting to see a sea of capacitors and I'm not, but that could be because they're on the other side of this board. I think I'd like to unplug everything. For some reason the speaker is not connectorized. I'm going to have to be a little bit careful, I think. Going to have to unplug this, aren't we? Let's take a close look at that. Right, need to pull these retainers back, I think. There we go. Don't just yank the cable out. There we go. Why do they not connectorize the speaker? So let's take these screws out and see what's on the other side of the board. I think we have to undo this nut here that's retaining the antenna. Aha! Remember I said we might see a sea of capacitors? That is a lot more capacitors than I was hoping to see. Oh dear. And I think they're all through hole, not surface mount. But that doesn't make the job any easier, does it? On a double-sided board it might even be harder. Am I going to test every single capacitor? What do you think? My question to myself would be, what's the backlight on this? Does it require high voltage or is it LED? Because if it's high voltage, this circuit here could be associated with generating that. But if that's LED, then I'm going to assume that this is associated with bringing that 12 volts down to something manageable for this unit, which is probably 5 volts. So that could be a DC-DC converter, in which case the problem is probably in that area. I'm going to start by looking at some of the capacitors in this area. Okay, I have an ESR meter here which is fitted with a remote control foot switch, which comes in handy for this sort of thing. So quickly looking at this one, 47 microfarad is our first test, and it'll give us a feel for whether all the capacitors have gone to heck or if we're just looking at one bad one somewhere. So this is, of course the trouble is, measuring in circuit may not work, but we'll try it. 47. That must be across something else because it's reading 100. And so's that one. A little bit of ESR there, but I don't think 2 ohms is going to bring the machine to its knees. There is a 100 here. Let's see if we can get to it. I think I'm going to have to desolder the speaker. It's completely in the way. I can just unplug this cable here, which is... that's the backlight cable, I think. So I just need to desolder the speaker, which we can do at either end. Look. That's the high voltage for the backlight. So that is DC-DC converter. Oh good, that's a bit of progress. I'm just going to mark up the polarity. It probably doesn't really matter, but let's just mark it up anyway. I think I'm seeing something underneath this capacitor. Might be seeing electrolyte under that capacitor. Let's try and measure it. So that's supposed to be 100 microfarad, that one. Well, it's reading much more than that, but also high ESR. Let's measure that again. Yeah, whatever's going on there, that's rubbish. Should we take a look at that under the microscope? So, looking at that capacitor, that one, that C54, do you think that has splurged? I think it might. And just generally looking around the board at other capacitors, I'm not seeing any terrible problems with other ones. Nothing obvious. So maybe it's just that one. Could we be lucky? See that under there? Okay, let's get that off and move this out of the way. So that's a... I don't know what that is. Is that a capacitor? I'm not sure if I should use desolder braid or not. I think not for this double-sided board. I think desolder braid will just take the solder off one side. So what do you think? Has that failed? I think it has, hasn't it? Let's measure it. Though, of course, the trouble with measuring it now is it's been heated up, and that will likely change its characteristics. So that is complete toast, that capacitor. That might be our problem. Alright, before I change that, I'm going to have a look around some of the other capacitors associated with it. So we were happy that these two here, they're almost in parallel with each other, but we're happy they're working. Let's have a look at this 220 and some of these. Okay, you can't always measure them in circuit. There's a 100 here. That's reading 200, so it's probably across another one. Similarly that, yes, there's obviously some of these are, they're either across each other or they may have inductors or similar between them. There's one there's a tad low. I was reading about 9 microfarads and it's supposed to be 10. Probably in spec though. That's supposed to be 22 and it is. So is that. Of course this one's a short circuit. It's a bit awkward. That's in circuit. Yes, so most of them I can't measure. They're in circuit and you can't measure them. Alright, let's get back to this C54. I'm going to try to open out the through plate holes with some desolder braid now. Okay, done that. Was there supposed to be a capacitor across it? A small value capacitor, decoupling capacitor there? I'll have to look back at my previous footage to see if I've knocked one of those off or if it never existed. Okay, the original component was this, and it's quite hard to find another capacitor of that sort of shape. I've got this one, which is a good deal taller. I think that's what we're going to have to do. So it's going to be a little fiddly to install because the original component sat down here and had this capacitor over the top. Now I'm just going to have to sort of bend it round past the power switch, I think. Which is, to be fair, what they've had to do here. But then I'm going to have to get this capacitor down again. Oh, it's going to be tight, isn't it? Oh, I'm not sure that'll fit. I don't think I'll get the capacitor down again. Maybe I could swing that capacitor around to the other side. Yes, maybe I could put the capacitor, instead of down over this component, down over here. Hopefully without breaking anything. Let's see if we can do that now. No, I don't think so. It's not going to fit. Really tight. And I can't put a surface mount in there. Can I put a surface mount? Do you know, I could possibly get a surface mount on her. Let me try that. Okay, so 100 microfarad, 16 volt. Well, I could mount it perhaps there. If I bend the tabs down slightly. I could sit it there. What do you think? Okay, that's soldered on both sides. It's not that pretty. I'll clean it up and we can put the capacitor over the top and then I think we'll give it a whirl. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let's reassemble it. Okay, this earthing tag has fallen off. That was rather sloppily soldered on here. So I'll need to refit that. Right, plug in the backlight. Resolder that earth contact here. Okay, I have enough to test it with. I haven't reconnected the speaker yet. Where's the speaker wire? There it is. Make sure it doesn't short on anything. But I should have enough to be able to just switch it on and see if we get anything on the screen. Oh, all my buttons are falling off. What a nuisance. Come back to them later. So this is the power button here. Power it up. Red light on, switch it on. Aha! That looks a lot happier. Okay, we can start reassembling the rest of it. I'm feeling like the manufacturers didn't fit a capacitor across here, you know, as something like 100 nanofarad. But I think I might, you know. Let's see if I've got something suitable. Yes, look what I found. 100 nanofarad surface mount capacitors. I'll put one of them across there. Right, so I'll put that in the location that they had placed right next to our capacitor. Actually, it barely fits. I think I'll stick it across the bottom here. Okay, let's refit the speaker terminals. Okay, that stupid earth tag fell off again. Be glad to get that reassembled so it can't keep breaking. I mean, they should have mounted that better. Okay, reassembly is proving a bit tricky. I'm going to take this flexi cable off before I damage it. And this wire's fallen off yet again. It feels like something up here, possibly that capacitor, is giving me grief. Does it not fit? Is that really too bulky? You know what the problem is? My new capacitor is colliding with this post here. Oh dear. Really not a lot of room, is there? So I'm thinking that's not going to fit, you know. I think I'm going to take the plastic off the bottom of the capacitor. Okay, I'm going to start slightly again. I've mangled that one. So let's carefully take the plastic insulator off the bottom. And now I can just solder it into place, treat it as though it's a normal through-plate capacitor. Apart from the fact that it mustn't touch the PCB, of course, so it needs to stand off a little bit. Okay, so I've put the capacitor in, actually replaced it, without the insulator, so it meant I had to be a little bit careful to stand it off the board and not allow it to touch anything, which I've done. There's a diode quite close, so I had to be quite careful not to touch that. Let's see if that now will fit in the case. Yes, that's much happier. Right, I'd better test it, so I'll reconnect these. There's this earthing wire that keeps falling off, and of course the flexi cable. Oh, I'll put one screw in first, and then I'll reconnect it, and then test it. So I'll put the screw in at the very post that was colliding with the capacitor earlier. Let's do this awful grounding contact again, which is just too short and should have had a proper screw terminal somewhere. They kind of bodged that. Why didn't they give it a proper grounding terminal location? You know, like one of these screws. They just messed that up. Right, without letting that fall off again, let's refit the flexi cable, which itself is quite fiddly. Okay, that's all good. Let's test it again. Power it up. Nothing. So close. But the power LED wasn't coming on. We were so close. Well, I just don't get it. I'm not seeing anything wrong. I'll power it up again and I'll check for the 13 volts here. In fact, I'll see if I can power it up in that position. What we're looking for is a red LED to come up on here. Okay, switch on now. Oh, hang on, where are we? We're reading fraction of a volt. Right. Switch on now. No. Now, there's 17 volts on the power supply, okay. But it's not getting through to the board. We've blown a fuse? Oh, silly me. There's another on-off switch here. Ah, fool. Right. Okay. Right. Let's reassemble the rest of it. Come on, who's not dismantled something trying to fix a fault only to find it switched off? Let's check that that terrible earthing contact is in place for putting the cover back on the front. Right, we have to fold this in onto here, not the other way around, with these buttons in place. And there's one clip at the top here we have to fight our way through, and the rest is screws. Okay, let's test it with our digital time-based corrector, which we're using as a video source. So switch that on and select color output, and that's in PAL mode. And I turn the volume up. Might be able to get a bit of buzz or something on the audio. Right, so that's working too. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this, working on this little TV monitor. It looked like it was probably unfixable, but it was just a capacitor on the DC-DC converter circuit. Right, I'll do plenty more content on audio and video technology in the near future. Bye for now. To what extent Maxim, who make consumer products like that TV, and the Maxim, which is now part of Analog Devices that made chips like this, are connected, it's not clear to me. I can't seem to work that out. But it might well be that in some respect they are rooted in the same company. Now, I should tell you a story about Maxim. I had a Maxim 232 chip in a little project. It was, how can I put this? A small device that would connect a PC to a satellite receiver. This was many, many years ago, back in the 90s. And it would allow one to potentially use the computer to decode certain channels that one might not have yet quite fully paid for. That would be an immoral thing, and of course I would never do such a thing. I mean, God would strike you down with lightning if you were to do such an immoral thing. So, of course, I was only for experimentation that I had the PC connected to my satellite receiver. Plugged in, I think, the card port, and it had this sort of Maxim 232 and some other circuitry, then went to the RS232 port of the PC. Now, my analog satellite receiver had failed and was in for repair with a local repair shop because it was under guarantee. So I had a lone satellite receiver one day, and there was a thunderstorm, and I lived up on the top of a hill at the time, and there was an almighty crackle, not exactly a full impact of lightning, but something like a tendril of lightning hit my satellite dish, and okay, you know, well, the house alarm went off and the car alarm went off and all things went wrong. So when I went down in the morning, everything seemed to still be all right, but the computer, though it still ran, couldn't talk to the satellite receiver anymore. And the Max 232 chip had been blown to pieces. And the satellite receiver didn't exactly work either. Anyway, I had the phone call later that day saying your satellite receiver's repaired. Oh, good. So I sort of taped back this smouldering box. And they gave me mine back. And I said, sorry, that one doesn't quite work anymore. There was a lightning storm last night. And I never mentioned the fact it may or may not have been plugged into a PC via this little Maxim chip. So did God strike me down with lightning for having some kind of satellite decoder thing? So that's my little story with a Max 232 chip.